Now, believe it or not, that dream life of yours that you've always wanted can be achieved by following 3 steps. And no matter who you are or what your circumstances are, these 3 steps can be applied to your own life. Maybe you've been dealt a bad hand, or maybe you've been sleeping in the matrix up until this point and you're just craving something more. Now, how exactly did I come up with these 3 steps? Despite my young age, I've had a lot of life experience up until now, and throughout that process and that journey, the universe just sort of helped my mind boil it down to 3 steps. So I didn't borrow these ideas from anyone, and who knows, maybe someone out there already said them before me. But as far as I know, you won't hear these 3 steps anywhere else. So what I'm going to do is explain each of them and how I applied them to my own life to get me to this point where I'm at now, to the point where I built my own life on my terms, free to choose my own work schedule, and I've built a business that has the potential to earn 6 figures next year, which will allow me to truly live the life of freedom that I desire. Now, before I delve in, I want you to know that these 3 steps will not work if you don't have 2 things. And they are 1, quality desire, and 2, ambition. Now, desire is far more important than knowing how to do something. And it is ambition that will help you find a way. And if you don't have these 2 things together, you will find yourself giving up when things get really hard, and what you'll do is you'll end up submitting to the default of society. The default where you live on someone else's terms, at a job you don't like for 40 plus years, and you don't ever build that dream life that you always want. Okay, now, step number 1 to building your own life is simply to explore. It starts with this because in order to create a life of fulfillment, you need to go out there and learn what it is you're even passionate about. Remember that direct experience is king, so you won't discover those passions unless you're proactively taking on the driver's seat of life. Now, once you're in this driver's seat, you'll see your life beginning to unfold as you start to follow your natural curiosity. And that could lead you to exploring a lot of things, like maybe computers or the stock market, martial arts, painting. It could lead to hundreds of different things. And for me, one of the things that my natural curiosity led me to was exploring Australia. And, it was there that I explored endlessly, like the depths of my mind and just how reality and nature work. And I was actually really surprised at how many people didn't take advantage of the opportunity to study abroad in college. Only a very few number, and yeah, COVID played a huge role in that, but even my friends who did graduate before COVID happened, a very few number of them actually studied abroad. Now, the older you get, especially once you hit 18, you'll see more and more doors of opportunity to explore start to open in every direction. It's kind of like that one scene in Monsters, Inc., with all the doors everywhere. And my advice to you is to not let those opportunities pass you by, because it is what will lead you into step number 2 of building your life, which is discovering. By this point, you'll have discovered so many passions that it's hard to choose one. You're so passionate. But before we can build the life that we want surrounding those passions, we have to do some deep digging, because there are certain things to discover about yourself and the world we live in before you can be free to build the life of fulfillment that you want. You see, none of us were born knowing what's true, right? And we are born knowing essentially nothing about our own ins and our own outs and how reality works. So we either have to take the effort to discover what's true or believe what others claim to be true, and I suggest that you do the former and not submit to dogma, because if you really commit to this work, what you'll discover is that a lot of what our culture and school and parents taught us to be true is really not. You see, our minds were programmed and conditioned since a very young age. My friend Andre uses a good metaphor to describe this. He says that it's like wearing a bunch of sweaters, right? And You have to shed off each of the layers and destruct the programming your mind was subjected to in order to get down to your very raw core. But you must first go through the process of discovering what those layers even are. And what most of us will find is that a lot of those sweaters are there because of some sort of trauma. You see, trauma comes in many layers, and often they don't seem a part of our lives anymore, but really they are. They serve as the deep foundations of our subconscious mind. You see, many of us grew up in dysfunctional families, and this trauma is something that your parents passed on directly to you. Now, they didn't mean to, it was just part of their programming. Now, trauma is literally like a bunch of heavy sweaters, right? It's all weighing you down, and they will prevent you from fully enjoying and building the life you want. The deeper the trauma and the earlier you experienced it, the harder it is to unravel that sweater and to heal at the core. So in order to free yourself, you must do the work and take the time to heal, which can be a tricky thing to do, but it can be done in many ways today, right? You can hire a professional, you can take psychedelics, talk it out with a friend, or just contemplate with yourself. So in my experience, I told you all how I lived in Australia a couple of years ago, and that is where I was really able to explore nature and myself, and that led me to discovering a lot of my passions such as photography, videography, spirituality, meditation, the ocean, and more. But, I remember that I couldn't fully enjoy those things because I just didn't know what it was. There was something weighing me down. I just couldn't pinpoint it, and therefore I couldn't fix it. And it actually wasn't until a year later that I was able to unsuppress my deepest trauma. And when I did that, oh my gosh, it was really ugly at first, but at the same time, it freed me. And that's really when I was able to start building the life I wanted. And I felt 100% fulfilled, like nothing was hindering my mind or weighing it down anymore. And that leads into the next point I want to make. So your mind is interwoven with physical reality. And this is a complex notion which I won't go too deep into with here, but your mind and reality are literally like this, interwoven. So when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at quite literally start to change. You see, the mind is directly playing a creative role in generating reality and the results you get in life. So with this, you must realize that a key component in building your own life is taking responsibility for your own mind. There is no one out there to blame. So instead of blaming someone or creating a story of victimization, ask yourself, how can you take ownership, and how is your mind generating these results? This is easier said than done, right? It requires you to go deep in and turn inwards and discover that while a lot of life is out of your control, you can still change the situation because you can change what things mean. Remember that life is created by the meaning we give things, so by taking responsibility, we energetically free our minds. And the sooner you discover this, the sooner you can start to build your own life. One last point with this step that I want to bring to your attention, and this point I'll touch upon very briefly, and it's discovering the traps of culture. You see, society has these systems in place, such as the education system and the food system, which are driven by profit and greed and not by your best interest. The education system is a complete mockery of the learning process, and it will tell you what to think, not how to think. And the food system, it will feed you harmful chemicals that toxify your brain to the point where you can't properly use it. So discover these traps and learn proper nutrition so that you have the clean energy to really build the life that you want. And by doing so, that will lead you into completing the final step, which is creating. You see, once you explore and discover your multiple passions, you can then create the life you love, doing what you love. But you can't create effectively and sustainably until you've taken steps 1 and 2 first and really have done that work. I told you how I unsuppressed a deep trauma, and that was the first week of December of 2020. Then 3 weeks later, by January 1st, I created this YouTube channel and my personal brand, Ari the Creator. And yeah, that was the most fulfilled my soul has ever been, because that sweater wasn't there anymore. And yeah, with my brand, I was able to tie in all of my passions so beautifully and perfectly. But yeah, I recommend you create more than just a job or even just a career for yourself, but something that serves as your life's purpose and ties in all your deepest passions. You see, in life, there's no escaping work. You will have to contribute to society in some way, and you can become useful either by society's terms or really customize life for yourself. And if you pick a field you love and develop skills that are useful to mankind, it's easier today, more than ever before, to make a living doing that. All the information you need is at your fingertips, and if you don't have access to a computer, libraries are free. There are so many free platforms to help you accomplish this too, such as YouTube. And if you're interested in getting one-on-one coaching with me, I have a program for that, and I'll put the link down below. And aside from that, you don't even need a fancy funnel or a certification to really get this going for yourself. All you really need is a landing page, which you can easily create in minutes on platforms like Kajabi. I'll put the affiliate link for that down as well if you're interested in that. But not everyone can be successful, because many will give up when they don't get the results that they want right away, and they're not willing to invest in things like courses or personal coaches. But if you get started today and believe in your vision and make that promise to yourself, you can take that thing that you're good at and figure out how to turn it into different income streams. Think of income streams like legs on a table. The more legs, the better the table is supported, right? Now, multiple legs is something that you should be striving towards, because to build your own life, you want the freedom that money buys. The freedom to explore, discover, and create even more, right? With money, you can travel, you can invest in programs and not be bogged down by someone else's schedule. But that takes time to get there, right? It could take multiple years. And to get there, I always recommend having a little side, personal, career-related project that you're working on. And don't let the fact that you don't know how to do something stop you. This is where desire and ambition come in to help you find a way. You don't need to know, right? You don't need to know how. You just need a clear desire and an intent. And from that, everything else will be generated. Now, especially if you're young and you just graduated like I did, this is the greatest 5-year window of your life. This is when you don't go practical and safe and get the job your parents always wanted you to get, or spend all your money on alcohol or cool cars. This is when you go after the life you want to live and explore things you love to do and just go all in. But despite your age, don't let those silly ideas of, oh, I'm too old or I'm too young stop you. And you can take all this advice I'm giving you and test it for yourself and watch your life begin to unfold in new ways you never even fathomed. Or you can submit to society's default. Nothing wrong with that if that's what your heart wants. But I sense that's not you, considering you made it this far in the video. And one final point. Once you reach that point of creating your life, know that the exploring and the discovering never end. There's always more to learn, always more to uncover and create. So focus on what it is that you want, right? And radiate as much love as possible onto others. And that's a final key to building your own life, right? And of course, remember, you are the creator of your life experience, and this life is whatever you make of it. And if that's you, comment #IamACreator down below. And if you made it this far in the video, then you must really enjoy my content, so please consider supporting me on Patreon. Currently I have 5, and I'm striving to get to 8 by the end of this year. And yeah, your donations go a really long way, so I really appreciate it. The link for that is down below. But yeah, thank you for making it this far in the video. I really appreciate you all, and yeah, I'll see you soon for the next episode.